Welcome back to SOSi. It was a couple of weeks ago that we were here talking to Rhonda, and today we are here talking to Sean Paul, a U.S. Army veteran who works as a Senior Cybersecurity Engineer for the Office of the Chief Technology Officer at SOSi. How do you fit all that on a business card? I'm not sure. And you've probably seen his one wheel riding around Sierra Vista. So, Sean, first of all, thank you so much for your time today. It's great to talk to you. I appreciate your time. Tell us about your role at SOSi and your involvement in our Sierra Vista community.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, SOSi, I've worked as mostly specialized in defensive cyber operations and networking. In the last 5 years, I was up on post. I managed a 18-person team. Well, actually, it's 3 different teams, 18 people. And their job was to maintain all of the intrusion detection and prevention systems, and also the threat and data analytics. Basically, my team was in charge of finding all the bad guys in the Army networks. And so after that, I went to lead a managed detect and response security operations center for the Army Enterprise IT as a Service contract, which is kind of it was a really big new pilot program that we were doing for the Army, which is really cool because we had a zero trust network, and it was one of the first instances of zero trust. And zero trust is a new way of securing data. And that job was mostly like my original one, where I was catching all the bad guys, but I also had the incident response, which is the analysts who go out and we see an alert that's detected, and they go out and they go, is that a real thing? Is it really a bad thing? And so it was very cool doing that. That was one of the favorite things that I did. And then for the last 3 years, you did talk about OCTO, which is the Office of the Chief Technology Officer. I work for Kyle Fox, who's our CTO, and I focus on cybersecurity solutions mostly. We do things, what I do within the company now is go from training our people, upskilling them to make sure that they're up to date on all the new technologies and capabilities, and then also looking for possibly partnering or even purchasing software for our contracts and our corporate business itself. But you also asked about the community.
Yeah.
So I've been volunteering in the community for a really long time.
How long have you been here?
Well, I got here in '96.
Okay.
Started off as
definitely a long time.
Yeah, been here a hot minute. Started off as a soldier up on post, and then I transitioned to a contractor back in '98. So I've been doing this cybersecurity gig for quite a while.
Yeah.
But when my daughter was little, we started off with Little League, as one does, right? So Little League, so Ponytail softball. We started as a team coach and a manager, and then volunteered for the board. And I've done just about every job on the board except for treasurer. I'm terrible with money. And then I'm currently a registrar for Ponytail. So for a lot of like the Ponytail games and opening ceremonies that happened on Saturday, I was out there doing all that stuff. And I also am the district information officer. With Little League, you have local leagues, and then you have a district which manages multiple counties worth of leagues, and then you have state, regional, and international. But I'm also the information officer for District 8, which is Santa Cruz, Cochise, Greenlee, and Graham counties.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of Facebooks there.
That's exciting, though. I mean, thinking about that involvement and for that number of years, obviously your daughter has long since gone on past the Ponytail phase of her softball career, but you're still there.
I won't say that I won't say how long I've been doing it, but let's just say that my volunteer for Little League can vote.
That's pretty awesome. That is a solid number of years for sure.
And I also do stuff with a cybersecurity bent. And that is, I work with the U.S. Cyber Patriot program here in Cochise County. Most of it is headed up by Dan Gilmet over at Cochise College, fantastic guy. It is an international academic competition league. There you have teams that compete, and you teach them cybersecurity practices and methodologies. And so we started off with Colonel Smith Middle School. That's where I started. And our first year, we were actually third in the nation. It was Very cool.
Wow.
Some really great kids. And it's a great program. And you have to start earlier with everything, right? So you get all these kids, you start them in middle school and high school, and you really gravitate to get them. And then we realized that we didn't have enough FaceTime with these kids. So I started off my YouTube channel, Kilts and Computers, because, I'm the kilt guy, right? So, and that provides additional resources for those kids to kind of really grasp on and learn at their own pace.
What a fantastic opportunity, and to be able to create that and maintain it over the course of long enough to be able to vote, I think is something very, very awesome in our community. By the way, it's Sean Paul that we're talking to, a U.S. Army veteran who works as the Senior Cybersecurity Engineer at the Office of the Chief Technology Officer here at SOSi. Sean, in the evolving landscape of technology, both cybersecurity and IT play critical but distinct roles. How do you see the relationship between cybersecurity and IT, and how can organizations foster diversity within both fields to enhance innovation and security?
Yeah, that's a really rough question.
Yeah.
And it's a great one because first you need to understand the roles that IT and cybersecurity, and even a part that's rolled up in cybersecurity all the time, information assurance. They're all distinct, but they're all super important to each other. Kind of define those for those who are not necessarily tech savvy out here.
Me, that's me.
But hey, my dad asked me how to fax a video to one of his coworkers, so I have to deal with people who don't understand technology at all. So information technology is basically your infrastructure. You're building and maintaining all of the things that represent everything, whether it's a computer system, your mobile phone, routers and switches, networking devices, those types of things. So you have your endpoints and you have your networking devices. And they maintain all of that, make sure it's up to date and built and working properly. Information assurance comes in and provides like a security layer on top of that. Only certain people can log into it. You have these things only running in order to reduce your risk. And then you have cybersecurity, which is the security monitoring on top of all of that. So we're looking at all of the activity that goes on, whether someone is doing something bad at work or if someone is trying to hack into them from the outside. And to kind of like make it a little more understandable, because a lot of that is jargony, right? So if you think about IT as the infrastructure, that's your house, that's the restaurant down the street, that's the roads that take you from here to there.
Okay.
And so the restaurant and the house are endpoints. And the road is the networking stuff. Information assurance is where they come in and they set the speed limits, right? They put the traffic controls at the intersections to make sure everyone's safer. And then you have cybersecurity, and those are the police officers that are patrolling the roads and looking at all the cameras at every intersection, because that's just how we work. And that's how all of that works together. So going back to your question, right? So how does it all work together? Well, each builds on the other, right? Every one of those relies on the others, and they all complement each other. And getting the diversity of those is having the people with the different skill sets that are able to work in each of those distinctly different fields. I've been doing cybersecurity for 26 years. I'm not the guy to fix your printer. That's somebody else, right? So you have to find the right people to plug into the right positions for all of that. And the way you do that is you have to bring all of that stuff in there and keep people not only aware of the new technology, which seems to come out every single day, but you have to be able to train them. And that's an important part of the thing. It's not just having that widget, but having the people who know how to use that widget.
And making them all work together on that, from point A to point B along that highway.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing. From our conversation with Rhonda a couple weeks ago, we know that SOSi is a leading technology and services firm specializing in defense and government services sectors. Also, that SOSi has been instrumental in securing and sustaining the U.S. Army's cyber defenses. So in your role as a senior cybersecurity engineer, can you share more on what it means to safeguard the Army's cyber domain and how AI provides a significant advantage?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So here at SOSi, we employ like a multi-layered approach to adopting new technologies and combining those with like proven practices and specialized expertise. We bring in those subject matter experts who fully understand all of the technologies and how they work and interlink to each other. And then what we have to do is we have to focus on two major areas, right? The detection capabilities and the analysis portion. You start off with the detection, with the ability to look at the stuff that comes in. All of our data comes into basically a single repository, and we start with machine learning languages and algorithms. And what happens there is it's able to look at all of this, and it knows what right is. So if it sees something, well, that's not right, I'm going to raise a red flag. So it brings an alarm to a human to look at. And then sometimes it's bad, and if we know it's always bad, then we make sure it goes away. We block it, we do something with it, right? But sometimes it's not bad. But if you're using AI to complement that, it's able to look at all of the threat tactics that the advanced persistent threat, which is the bad guys, and how they work. And so there is this thing called the MITRE ATT&CK framework, and it lists out all the possible ways you can mess with a computer system. And it lists all of the different groups of people, of threat actors, and how they use those. You know, some threat actors only use these two different things, and some use like 4, some use all of them, some use 1. It's crazy. And keeping track of that as a human is nearly impossible. But AI can do it. So when you're combining machine learning to bring that up to the point where it's now, okay, this is a potential flag. And then AI goes, oh, this by itself is nothing. But this and this is bad. And you need to look at it. And that's where you bring the human in the loop. And you're able to bring that back in. So if you're using AI, instead of one guy fumbling around forever to figure it out, it brings it up immediately and it speeds our detection dramatically.
It's got to be exponentially at that point, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then, you know, beyond that, right? So we need to start looking at the threat hunting operations. And it's in a very similar vein. Instead of things that necessarily alert or are immediately anomalous, you have to have something that is super difficult to find. You're looking for a needle in a needle stack, but this needle has a red tip.
Right.
How do you find that? Well, once again, you overlay with AI, which has been trained on all of those threat models, and it's able to find it really quickly and then bring it to our attention so we can action it.
And again, knowing that there is still human interaction necessary for this. It's not that AI is completely replacing you.
There's no
because then you'd have to start learning how to change people's toner.
Oh yeah, forget that. You don't want to be doing that. But yeah, we're no Skynet here. There has to be a human in the loop, at least somewhere. We can automate to a point, but there's still a lot of human interactions, touch points at all of these different levels. No one's being replaced. We're just speeding it all up.
That's fantastic. Can you share more about the shifting demands for cybersecurity expertise across the military and government agencies? Basically, how does this create a challenge to stay ahead of adversaries or those bad guys that you were talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we're looking at the threat landscape, and that's all of the bad guys doing the things, they're adopting all of the new technologies, right? They're using AI to improve their models. They're getting things out there faster. Threats are coming out. Threats used to come out every 6 months, every month, and now we're seeing threats come out, new threats being reported almost daily, if not daily. So how do we keep up with that, right? So the demand is incredible for us to be able to keep up with not only the threats and how to defend against all of that, but also to get new people and train them to get them into the industry. This cybersecurity is just not ever going to go away. There's always going to be someone trying to break into a system, so you have to find a way to do that. And then what we have is, we have to be able to bring all of this stuff in and also understand a lot of the networks that we're working with are super complex now, just amazingly complex. Especially when we start talking about things like zero trust, which we manage a really large zero trust with our mission partner environment over in Indo-PACOM. And then we also have like massive very intricate sensing systems within the Army networks that we work on with the Global Cyber Center up on post. And then we also have the Regional Cyber Center in Europe on those contracts that SOSi works. And we have to stay abreast of all of those technologies, all of those different network types, and the different threats that are facing each of those. What faces Europe isn't the same threat that faces CONUS. So you have to be aware of all of that stuff. And so the challenge is getting all those technologies into play and then training your personnel to make sure that they're on top of it.
So as a veteran, first of all, thank you for your service. What attracted you to SOSi, and what keeps you here at this company?
Yeah, so I apply the skills that I learned in the military to accomplish different cybersecurity tasks and these types of things, even though I wasn't a cybersecurity guy.
What were you?
I was a cavalry scout,
Okay.
which is, my job was to sneak across enemy lines in the middle of the night and then hide in the morning and find tanks in the sunrise. But a lot of that methodology works very well for like doing investigation work and these types of things. So it seems very strange, but it works very well. But it's instilled a sense of values in me that I have to work with. And then a lot of our vets, and not just SOSi employee vets, I'm talking about vets out here who are really what we like to say is married to the mission, right? They feel deeply invested in, oh, wow, I really feel about this, right? I feel pride when we block something. I feel pride when we find somebody who's been sneaking around doing bad things. And so you really get that investment for the vets. They really are invested. And then SOSi as a company, they get it. They're in the trenches with you. They're working with you hand in hand the whole way. And that's why I'm still here. It's because they just get it.
So what advice, since you were someone who came out of the military into this world of SOSi, what advice would you have for someone transitioning from the military into a new career field, perhaps here at SOSi?
Absolutely. So first thing, you have to take advantage of everything that Uncle Sam gives you. They've got SkillBridge. They have a couple other really wonderful programs that Rhonda talked about. And then you need to get in touch with Rhonda. She's the one who's plugged in with all of the job stuff. I'm here, I'm local, and I'm able to help with some of those things. And I show up to some of those events with her, but she's really the point of contact. But if you are looking at trying to transition into an IT or cybersecurity job, find me on LinkedIn. I do a lot of mentorships, this was born from my Cyber Patriot work. Bringing some of those kids up to speed. I've actually hired kids out of my cybersecurity program up on post.
Wow.
And so I really have that like sense of like accomplishment because their wins are also because I helped shape that, right? So when someone wants to get a new job in this field, it's hard to break in. There's just so many people out there. It's hard to find the right jobs. And I like to help them out. Now I'll give you the nickel tour for how we do this, right? And everyone builds a resume and they kick it out. Their CV goes to 200-300 applications. And that's not the way to do it. That's a good way to get yourself in the middle of the pack because your resume doesn't match the job requirements. So what you do is you take your core resume and you dump it into AI. You can tell I'm a big fan of the AI stuff, right? So you dump it in AI and say, here's my resume and here's this job that I want to get. And you take the job description and the requirements and you plug that into it and you say, help me rewrite my resume so that it better suits this job application. And it'll do it. Then you need to review it, make sure it doesn't lie to you because you'll be found out.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
Yeah.
But once you do that, right, so now you're in the top part of the pack because recruiters are using AI to help identify their candidates, right? So they go to AI and they say, here's the job I'm trying to fulfill, and here are 5 different resumes I'm reviewing. I want you to score them and then rate them from best suited to least suited. And boom, it does it. It's very, very good at it. And it's doing pattern matching. It understands what your job experience is to what those job requirements are. And it's doing language matching in a way that if you're building your resume against that, you're guaranteed to pop up much higher than someone else. And then when you get a phone call, go back to AI and say, hey, I'm getting interviewed for this job. You put that job description, the requirements, all that stuff back in there, and you say, act in the role of an interviewer. And it helps you practice. It helps you get better.
Well, the interesting thing I think that you mentioned is the fact that you've literally been preparing the next generation of cybersecurity professionals because of your work with them through your LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's wonderful being able to be part of all of that stuff, and then seeing kids as they get a new certificate. They message me. They're like, Sean, I got the thing. It's great. I'm like, oh, man, that's awesome. Way to go. What jobs are you looking for? Hey, I know that company. That's a really good company. Let's talk about this. And it's a lot of really good stuff. I love being able to be part of that.
Oh, it's amazing. Well, again, we're talking to Sean Paul, the U.S. Army veteran who works as the Senior Cybersecurity Engineer for the Office of the Chief Technology Officer right here at SOSi. We come down to our final question. This is where this motto here comes into play, the motto, challenge accepted. It's right here on the wall behind us. What does that phrase mean to you when it comes to your job, life, anything in general or specific? So
I absolutely love the motto, challenge accepted. And it's not just because I ride my one wheel around town, and that's crazy. For me, it means it's about adventure. It means embracing uncertainty, going into those difficult tasks, and not being afraid to fail. And it's kind of weird to talk about failure, but failure is incredibly important to us as a society. We don't learn very much from success. Success is cool and all, we feel good about it, but we don't learn much about it. We learn a lot because of failure because we hate it. We hate failure. You like failing?
Never.
I don't like failing. So whenever I fail at something, I make sure to better myself, to improve, so that I don't get in that same situation and make the same mistakes, right? So you don't do those. Don't repeat mistakes. That's the great thing about failure, because we learn from that. And then challenge accepted means you're going to get in there, you're going to own it. You're going to lean into it. You'll learn from it. Challenge accepted.
What would you say to someone who's watching this right now and they're saying, you know what? I think I'm ready to stand up and accept that challenge. What is their next steps?
So your next step is to go out there and learn about SOSi and look at all our technology and the innovations that we work with across the diverse contracts and portfolio that we do, all the different customer missions and mission sets. And to do that, you go to visit at SOSi.com. It's SOSi.com.
All of that information is in the post description. And if you think you would be the right fit for this amazing company, if you're saying, hey, I'm ready to accept the challenge, SOSi could be the place for you. Check the post description for all of the details. Sean, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Great talking to you.
When you see Sean around town on his one wheel at all the ponytail softball events, you let him know that you saw him right here on Cool FM Live. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for sharing. And if you know someone who would be interested in having that next step, taking that next step of their career to be a part of accepting the challenge here at SOSi, make sure you tag them as well. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.